Hey, what's up, everybody? The U.S. State Department has just recently issued a travel warning for American citizens who are planning to travel in Europe, particularly in France, Sweden, the UK, and Russia. Honestly, I wasn't even too aware of this being that big of a problem in Russia, but I'm going to assume that the State Department is more knowledgeable about these incidents than I am. This is obviously due to the excessive rise of Muslim terrorist activity that has been happening throughout the European continent, which probably also has something to do with the excessive amount of Muslim migrants into Europe. Just call it a hunch. It's pretty much a soft invasion at this point. When you see the sea of migrants flooding into European countries, they are suspiciously lacking many women and children and the elderly, and happen to be a high amount of young fighting-aged men. So upon looking into this travel warning that I had originally heard about on the radio, I came across a CNN article and this video.
Is it terrorism? A much repeated question that's asked by government agencies in the wake of an attack. And while it seems simple at first, making a call can be a struggle.
The deadly terror attack.
In 2015, there were almost 15,000 acts of terror in the world. The problem is that there's no internationally recognized definition for terrorism. The UN has been debating it for years. The FBI defined terrorism as the unlawful use of force or violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government, the civilian population, or any segment thereof in furtherance of political or social objectives. So, essentially, it comes down to motive. Was there a political or ideological agenda behind the attack? Take this. In March 2017, Khalid Massoud ran over civilians on Westminster Bridge and stabbed a police officer in the Palace of Westminster. He killed 4 and was shot dead by police officers. It was the worst attack in London for more than a decade. It was labeled terrorism. In 2012, 20-year-old Adam Lanza shot and killed 27 people in the now infamous Sandy Hook massacre before turning the gun on himself. He was a recluse, obsessed with school shootings, but it wasn't called terrorism because he had no known ideological intent. The reality is that in some of these cases, it's less clear-cut. But sometimes it can be used out of bias.
There is a danger that we only use the word terrorism to refer to a particular racial profile of perpetrator.
In June 2015, 9 people were killed in Charleston, South Carolina, when Dylan Roof opened fire in one of the oldest African American churches in the United States. He was later found to be a white supremacist. But despite multiple calls for his crime to be considered an act of terror, Roof was convicted for hate crimes and murder charges, not terrorism.
The Charleston example is a really important one to really conceptualize exactly how and why terrorism is essentially contested, and in this case we get to the heart of the debate. Sometimes terrorism is not used when the nationality of the perpetrator does not fit conventional stereotypes.
So, what is terrorism? It seems that for some cases it may be obvious, for others it may be a lot more muddled.
So as you can see, the CNN Muslim terrorist apologists trying to make it like we don't know what it means to call something terrorism, or how it's meant in these cases of Muslim terrorism. Obviously, as examples of what should be called terrorism, they bring up the Sandy Hook school shooter or Dylan Roof and his views towards white supremacy. But conveniently, CNN happened to leave out examples such as black supremacist Micah Xavier Johnson, whom you might recall as the Dallas sniper who shot and killed 5 police officers last year, or the black power killer who recently killed 3 white people in Fresno, California while shouting Allah Akbar a few weeks ago. This is obviously designed to continue a narrative of white racism and white power in America, which leads to situations like the very recent stabbing and killing of a white University of Texas student by a black racist wielding a machete. This overlooking of or ignoring of black racism towards whites or in this case, of the travel warning and Muslim terrorism, while perpetuating the white racism and white privilege in this country, is a very divisive and intentional tactic by the media to push forward an agenda. This double standard is not only racist within itself, but it continues to inflame this narrative of hatred towards whites in this country, and also towards our president, Donald Trump, and any initiative he takes towards securing our nation, such as the travel ban, or defunding sanctuary cities, the protection of our border and the building of the wall, because it continues the false narrative that Trump is racist and literally Hitler, and that we are all fascists and Nazis, which not only leads to even further violence throughout our nation, like it being okay to punch a Nazi. This is irresponsible and dangerous actions being used by the fake news. And these are some of the reasons why we refer to them as fake news. So anyway, if you are planning to go to Europe, be careful. Those no-go zones are no joke. So if you like my channel, if you like this video, go ahead and like the video. If you got anything to say so down in the comments below. Share this video, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. I'm out of here.